Oh, look out now. It's the Bourbon and Banter Podcast, the most honest podcast in all of bourbon. That's right, friends and neighbors. We've got everything you need to drink curious right here. This is your source for straight up, no BS commentary on the bourbon world. So sit back, grab a pour, and check your feelings at the door, because we're here to lay it out for you as only Bourbon and Banter can. And now your hosts, not only the most honest men in bourbon, but the top candidates for the upcoming relaunch of the Hamburglar and Mayor McCheese. Beef and bourbon are coming your way. Look out now.
Well, hell, Bob, that was extremely random, but you know what? Having lost my job, 4 weeks now, I'll apply for just about any job, so I'm down with that. I mean, which one are you going to be?
Well, I'm just going based on height here. Well, height and my sincere love of cheeseburgers. So I'd be Mayor McCheese. You'd be the Hamburglar.
All right, well, I can get down with that. At least neither of us has to be typecast as Grimace.
No, that's very true. And I thought about that as well. So, yeah, we're not doing Grimace, although I do have a purple suit in the closet behind me.
Of course you do. Well, hey, folks, welcome back to the Bourbon and Banter Podcast, the most honest podcast in all of bourbondom. We're glad that you've tuned in for, I guess, what is our 15th episode. And we hope that you're going to enjoy today's show. But Bob, how have you been these last couple of weeks?
It's been good, man. It's getting warmer. I will say it's my least favorite time of year. When temperatures rise above 50 degrees, I tell them to go to hell, because I like winter. I like cold, as most of my large brethren do.
Amen.
So, the warmer, I was out today having to run and grab a couple things at the store. And Jesus, just, the minute you get out, when you are typecast for the Hamburglar and Mayor McCheese, you get out there and it just starts sweating. It just starts flowing. So just trust us, folks. All the donuts start, coming out through pores.
Well, thank goodness there hasn't been a shortage on the supply chain for cornstarch.
That's true.
That's right.
Or towels.
Got to keep dry. Well, I'm glad you're doing well, despite the chafing, but that's another show. That's on a different channel. Hey, folks, if you were listening last episode, we mentioned that our 10th anniversary is coming up. That's right. A full decade of all things bourbon and banter is about to, come up on the horizon. Middle of July, I think July 13th might be the actual date. That's when we launch Bourbon and Banter as a Facebook page. So we're super excited that we've lasted 10 years and that people are still reading and tuning in and engaging with us. So thank you for that. And to celebrate, we're actually going to bring several members of the Bourbon and Banter team, anybody who can join, down to Louisville toward the end of June for a big celebration and tour. And one of the things that we're doing as part of that celebration is we are actually going to go and pick a single barrel at Stellam. Now, Stellam is the new expression and brands launched from Barrel Craft Spirits. It is a line of blended bourbons and blended ryes that are available at a much more accessible price point. I believe suggested retail is $54.99 for those bottles. And I did a review last week of the bourbon. Absolutely loved it. Couldn't highly recommend it highly enough. And I have a review coming out, I believe tomorrow, on the rye, which is also a solid rye. I prefer the bourbon a little bit more, but if you like ryes, especially very nuanced ryes, it's one you're going to want to check out. So don't miss that. But we're super excited that we're going to pick a single barrel while we're down there, and that is going to be released through our Single Barrel Club. So if you haven't signed up for that yet, please consider doing that. We'll have a link in the blog post for this episode. But what's interesting about this Stellam single barrel is that we have the option to actually deliver it not only through our preferred retail partner, which unfortunately has a limited shipping footprint, but through another retail network. So if you have not joined the Single Barrel Club because you couldn't get stuff shipped to you from our retail partner, this one's going to be different. So you can join at any tier you want just for the purpose of this. And then obviously, if you can't get anything else, you can obviously leave until we have another one. But this one is going to get broader distribution. And once again, being a part of the Single Barrel Club is your way to guarantee that you'll have access to a bottle, or maybe 2 or 3, depending on how many we get out of that. So looking forward to that. And also, we've added an Old Forester single barrel proof pick to that Single Barrel Club as well, which will be out later this year as well. And we're continually looking for some new ones to add, and hopefully we'll have some updates on that front soon. So, Bob, are you looking forward to that Stellam release as well?
I am. You said the bourbon and banter folks are coming down to Kentucky. So, a lot of times they'll say, mother, hide your daughters. But in this case, folks, hide your donuts and your whiskey. So we're coming and we'll be there. So you never know it. We may be big, but we can creep around to get some whiskey and donuts. So trust us.
Absolutely. We're stealthy when it comes to that. The other thing I want to point out is we have been testing a Bourbon and Banter members community. Right now, it's everyone in the Bourbon and Banter team and all of our Patreon members and a handful of folks who reached out after the last podcast to join. It's in alpha mode, so it's still early days, trying to figure things out, right cadence of information and types of content are there. But we want to let everyone know that if you are interested and want to join, just drop us an email at podcast@bourbonbanter.com and say, hey, I want to join the members community, and we'll get back to you with a few questions, and then good chance we'll let you into that, and you'll have the first peek and the first access to that. And we post a lot of information there. We get a lot of information daily from different brands, from press releases to news updates, and not all that makes it to the blog. It's a lot of work to take that, pare it down, put it on the blog, but it's really easy to drop it in the community. So if you really want to have your pulse on everything that's going on, and almost like you're getting your own industry news press releases delivered into your inbox, our members community is a great place to be for that type of information. And plus, we get some pretty good discussion that come out of it. And Bob, I wanted to throw this one out to you. I know you've got a pretty strong opinion on this one. We've talked about it before, but I want to open it up to everyone listening as well. And, once again, if you have an opinion on this, drop us a note, podcast@bourbonbanter.com, because we really want to get everybody else's feedback on this as well. But here's the question. When someone asks for a recommendation on a bottle for someone who is retiring with a budget of, let's say, $150 to $200, what do you say? Okay. And as much as, someone would like to say a couple of Four Roses or Russell's Picks, if they're really looking for a single bottle, how do you handle that situation? Bob?
Well, for me, we've talked about this before, and I came away with it the last time we discussed it with the basket of bourbon, which I would be happy to get any day of the week, as most people I know, as opposed to one bottle. A basket of really, $40, $50, $60 bottles, and it would be great. But if I'm forced to pick something like that, first of all, I have a problem putting that kind of money out for any bottle. I don't know that I have ever tasted a bottle that I'd say I would pay $200 for that. But right. If you're going to do it, and I know I'm not all people, I would go looking for one of the Wild Turkey Master's Keep bottles, because I love Wild Turkey. Those are some things that you can find, actually. So that would be the first thing that I would look for. It's hard to get into stuff like this without paying secondary. If you want to go pay secondary for something, you can do that. But if you're just looking to go buy a couple $100 bottle off the shelf that's readily accessible, for me, I think there are few and far between. You've got the Knob Creek 25th anniversary bottles that are, can get about 120, but you can go and buy a Knob Creek 12 year now. Mm-hmm. You can buy some private picks that are 14, 15 years old. So it's difficult for me to put that kind of thing on it. Or what I might do is buy a nice bottle at about $100 and also then buy some accessories to go with it. So you're giving the person a nice bottle, with several Glencairns, with some other kind of barware that they'll actually, no whiskey stones, damn it. No fucking pipettes and shit. But, buy some things like that, and then they can really enjoy that. What I tell people a lot of times, people lately have been asking me about gifts, and I go to Remus Repeal Reserve because it's something that I won't necessarily buy for myself. It's at a higher price point. It's a great mingling of older whiskeys. It's very accessible, though. It's not at a barrel proof, so folks who may not drink whiskey all the time are still going to be okay accessing it. That for me. Okay. So that's what I would probably grab, with some other stuff thrown in there.
Okay. Well, you raised an interesting question, because as you were talking, I agree with you that most over $100 whiskeys aren't necessarily worth the money, right? And so where do you go? And so I was actually thinking about the secondary. I'm like, would I be more inclined to pay a secondary price on a bottle that I know that is good, but hard to get, and make it special that way? Because once again, when people, assign a value, like I want to spend $200 a bottle and make a nice gift, we all know, at least people that listen and read Bourbon and Banter, have come to realize that the price of a bourbon doesn't make it special, doesn't make it better. However, there is something to be said for rarity of a bottle. Okay. And will you do that? So if there's a bottle that I cannot get in a store that regularly is $80, let's say, will I pay $150 in secondary to give it as a gift, knowing that they're never going to be able to get their hands on this themselves, right? Because they don't play in those circles. So I think there's some interesting exceptions there. But the other thing, in just some of the conversation that was in the Bourbon and Banter community about this, where people were like, well, I go online, I get recommendations, I do something like that. And I raised the question of like, are people comfortable making a recommendation of a whiskey that they've never had? Speaking only for myself, I would never give someone a recommendation to spend that kind of money, or even less in many cases, on a bottle of whiskey that I haven't personally tried, unless I heavily caveat and say, listen, I haven't tried this. People that I know and I trust have tried it and said it's very good. But I would have a hard time going much further than that in making a recommendation if I haven't personally tried the whiskey myself.
The other thing is when someone asks me, I want to, for a recommendation, the first thing I ask is, what does the person typically drink? What are their, because what may be great in my mind for my palate is not necessarily going to be right for theirs.
Of course,
they may
absolutely.
like overly oaky stuff, so that's the first thing I ask. But then I agree with you, but then I'm back to thinking, okay, well, what can I get for $150 to $200 on a secondary? Could I get a barrel proof EH Taylor for $200? Probably not. So what do you get for $120? You get a Weller 12. Now my thoughts on that, but
yeah, but if the person you're giving to it, if they've dropped that they have always wanted to have it,
that's true.
Does it still make sense? So at what point do you get past your own hesitations? Is it worse to buy a bottle like a Weller 12 or a Weller Special Reserve for $150 and give it to somebody who's dying for it when you know it's good but only worth $25? Or is it better to give something that you've never had? So, I mean, once again, we're not going to solve for today, but for anything, these are the types of conversations that I love seeing unfold. And that's one of the things that, is our goal for the Bourbon and Banter community, is for people to come in and have these conversations without all the assholes coming in and thread shitting and bullying people. So you're fucking stupid. So know that if you join our community, we want to have these conversations, and we want people to, stand behind their opinions. Absolutely. But not in a way that makes you the asshole, because then we'll boot you out and we'll put you on a list. But if you dig these types of conversations and seriously want to get into some intriguing conversation with some people that will in the near future be your friends and you can always have a drink with, drop us that note once again at podcast@bourbonbanter.com, and we'll get you hooked up and welcome you into the community with open arms. All right. Well, that said, Bob, I think it's time we turn our attention to the world of whiskey and some of the news things that have been hitting the channel recently.
There we go. Time for the whiskey news.
All right. Well, this one's going to be a little bit weird because I've been going through the whiskey news and there's a lot of stuff coming out this week that I really don't give a shit about. So I've kind of picked through here. So I'm going to start off with a study that came out, and this, once again, file under duh, but global alcohol sales fell 6% during the pandemic. That's kind of a no shit Sherlock type of thing, right? And around 15.8 billion liters during the pandemic is what it fell. In case for those guys who are looking to not only know the exact numbers, but to do it in the metric system. But the data came from more than 100 countries, and it was highlighting the top 20 alcohol markets. Now, this may be shocking to our regular listeners, but it showed that the largest declines in sales volumes year over year were in South Africa.
See, we told you, fuckers. We told you had to stop with this shit, but no, you couldn't do it.
Down over 20%. Which obviously when you shutter all your hospitality venues, you curtail domestic sale of alcohol, and I think it was 3 separate lockdowns for more than 20 weeks. People are going to suffer. I mean, so not only did you have the suffering of people buying things in the black market and addiction and fights and murders and mayhem that comes once again when you keep, alcohol from people. We've experienced this in our country, 100 years ago. You also lose a shit ton of money, right? and you empower, the local black market and the mob and whoever's running that kind of stuff. So that I thought was fascinating. Now, among those top 20 markets, you had Spain up there with a 14.4% drop, Vietnam with 14%, and then the UK came in down by 10%. The U.S., which is the second largest market for alcoholic drinks, saw things flat with year-over-year decline of only 0.6%. So once again, America showing its mettle, its strength, and the fact that we're not going to ever take prohibition again. Take that, you motherfuckers. Let's keep drinking. Now, interestingly enough, despite that, because clearly a lot of people stopped drinking, which meant a lot of us, myself especially, drank a lot more. So once again, I'm taking it up, making sure I cover for other people who, for whatever reason, can't get to it. But despite all this, you're going to be shocked by this, but apparently even despite that level-headedness, you still can't get anybody to buy Devil's River whiskey. No one's buying this shit. I don't know if you guys have heard us talk about it before, but this is out of Texas. It's one of the most god-awful whiskeys on the market. And Bob sent me a photo the other day that they were pushing it on the shelves with a $10 rebate, which brought the price down to $2.94 a bottle.
It was $2.94 without the rebate. So they would actually pay you to drink. I didn't look at how much you had to buy with the rebate, but they would pay you to drink it. No, it was $2.94 without the rebate, and it was still half a dozen bottles deep in the shelf.
Well, we should go buy some and make some money.
With who? No one's buying the shit for $3. Who's
No. We buy it and we make $7 profit.
Yeah, I don't know if I could bastardize myself that much to go do that, boss.
Oh, dude, I could use it for lighter fluid, degreaser.
That's true.
I could give it to people who flame us online. Just send them a nice little package with some Devil's River.
We could with the 2 for $5 now. We could get a couple Big Macs or some shit like that. With the stuff coming back there.
That's right.
So there's always use for stuff like that.
Right. So if there's any Devil's River whiskey fans out there, and you're not scared to reach out, let us know. We'll let you know where those bottles are at. But then the insult to injury, right, Bob, was when you pointed out that it was sitting in the slot on the shelf where the OGD 114 was supposed to be sitting.
That's right. And that's why I went in there, was actually to get some OGD 114, and it was gone.
Well, it's gone everywhere, man. Nowhere.
It's gone it's not gone everywhere, because a friend of mine who is currently doing some business in Florida, I won't say where, found 2 bottles on the shelf and is coming back with those. So specifically.
Yeah, but he had to be in Florida and he only found 2 bottles.
Well, that's the only place he went and looked so far.
Well, yeah, come on.
It was early in the week.
You should be able to find plenty of those on a shelf, even here. We have a problem, Houston. That's all I'm going to say. That's a whole nother episode. We'll have to dig in that one a little bit more. A couple new whiskey releases to announce this week. Orphan Barrel, yes, the fine folks from Diageo putting out quality products that were once lost but are now found, have released Copper Tongue 16-year-old straight bourbon whiskey. This is a cask strength release. I believe the first cask strength release in the Orphan Barrel program. It's a 16-year-old straight bourbon from Cascade Hollow Distilling Company, better known as
Dickel.
It's coming in at 89.8 proof, and that's not a typo. That's cask strength at 89.8 proof. I don't know how the hell that's possible. I thought Wild Turkey's whole explanation years ago, when the proof was so low on their cask strength release, was a lot to wrap my head around. But apparently, if it sits long enough, it's pulling in moisture, I guess. The retail price actually is not going to be horrible. It's going to only be $100. So this has created what we call the Tater Paradox, right? So this is a sense is, well, all the people that know that no matter what you do to Dickel, it's not worth the money, are they going to pay the money so then they can complete their Orphan Barrel line and have every single one that's been released? So, tune back in. We'll see how it goes. But knowing enough about the market as we do, these things will sell out. You'll see completed collections everywhere, and until they're lost again, only to be resurrected in another 80 years. But you had an interesting commentary about how you thought we should reuse use the people who are finding all these orphan barrels.
Yeah, whoever's digging up and finding all these secret 16-year-old barrels, we need to take them out on some treasure hunts, man. Take them out to the ocean or some shit with a metal detector. They can find some shit if they're finding all these 16, 17, 23-year-old barrels laying around Stitzelweller or wherever the fuck. These folks need to do that. You're talking about completing the orphan barrel vertical. This is one of those prime examples of why they call it a vertical, because you can just drop it straight down into the toilet, just flush it, and you're rid of it, and you don't have to worry about it at all.
Very nice. Well, I think Hoffa's family could use these folks to give them a hand. Speaking of knocking on heaven's door, we got the news this week that Heaven's Door was releasing a new product in collaboration with Redbreast. That's right, the Redbreast of Irish whiskey fame. And it's the first collaborative product release for both brands. It's the Master Blenders Edition is a tribute, and I'm reading here from the release, to both American and Irish artistry and whiskey, starting with Heaven's Door 10-year aged low rye bourbon. The final whiskey was finished for 15 months in Redbreast signature 12-year-old Irish whiskey cask, resulting in a whiskey with prominent notes of leather, nut, and spice, as well as sherry, citrus, dark fruit, and Irish honeycomb, which, once again, I'm not sure the difference between a regular honeycomb and an Irish honeycomb. It's $99 for a bottle. It's 100 proof and 10 years old. Okay. Now, here's the fascinating thing. And we're going to do a real-time tasting because the bottle just showed up today at my house for a sample. I asked for a sample. They sent me a full bottle, which tells you a lot. Beautiful bottle, right? Get a little bit of Dylan's handiwork, iron grill work, gate work done on the front with a little Redbreast sitting on top of it. So, that's fine.
I will give it to them. They've got gorgeous bottles. It's just,
right.
I don't know that anything inside matches what the outside looks
like.
But
let's go ahead and give this a quick sniff and taste, shall we?
While Pops does that, we'll ponder the Irish honeycomb. I'm wondering if that's like, the honeycomb cereal. Is it like a drunk bear eating some cereal?
Like the Sugar Smack Bear or whatever it was?
Yeah, whatever that was.
All right. So the nose smells like Dickel. There's nothing, there might be something a little different under the bottom of it, but let's just dig in here. Well, up front, there is a little bit of a sherry flavor to it. It's really light. But then when you go in for the finish, I just taste that a lot of the Flintstone vitamins that are a hallmark of the Dickel whiskey, right? This has been open for like 30 minutes, so it's not a total fair tasting, but just the first quick sip, there's not a lot going on with this. I don't know if anybody would really know in a blind taste test if you would pick up that this is what's going on, and I think that's due to what you mentioned earlier, Bob, when we were setting up for the recording. Irish whiskey is going to be aged in used barrels to start with. A lot of them start with bourbon cask, right? So these are bourbon barrels that have been used for some amount of time. And then, so they lose a lot of their char power. Then the Irish whiskey is sitting in it. And, for 12 years in this case, right? So let's say it was 4 years of bourbon, 12 years of Irish, so 16 years. And then the whiskey was set in there, for another 15 months. I don't think the barrel's got a lot to offer, especially that's going to pick up in simply a 15-month run here. I think the barrel was low on charge, which once again is maybe what they wanted because they didn't want too much influence. But this is the first time I've seen someone take a bourbon and finish it in an Irish barrel. So I was kind of hoping for something. So I'm gonna reserve a little bit of judgment and let it open up a little bit and see if something will come out of it. But first quick sip is not quite worth the $100 price tag.
I'm thinking that the only thing that's coming out of this is marketing.
Well,
aged in a Redbreast cask that used to have bourbon in it, but then had Irish whiskey for 12 years now, and plus 15 months. Most of the stuff that's secondary cask aged is not aged that long in a secondary cask.
No, because it's got too much stuff going on, right?
It's not. Yeah, there's really, you're like, blood from a turnip type of thing here.
All right. Well, we'll see if it opens up a little bit, and obviously I'll get a sample to you as well. I hate to say this, but this is $100. The 16-year-old Dickel is $100. So if I had to buy $100 for one of these two, the 16-year-old's kind of intriguing me just because of the age and the low proof. Be kind of curious of that combination. I've requested a sample of that. I don't know if we'll get it or not, but hey, maybe we'll get to do a taste test for the next podcast. But if you're a Dylan fan, hey, stock up. I mean, it's drinkable. I mean, it's not a drain pour by any means. Just not $100 worthy at this point in time.
You know, it's funny when you said speaking of knocking on heaven's door, I thought you were referring to the fact he just had a birthday and he's like 80 years old. And I thought that's why you said that. But
no, I'm not that in tune with him. Like his writing and his music, I hate his singing. So let the flame.
I'm not either. I only knew it was his birthday because Springsteen said something. So.
Oh, well, okay. All right. Well, speaking of more taterific releases, the Weller CYPD annual release is coming out, folks. So it's going to be, it should be hidden just about now. It's, and I say this laughingly, it's $49.99 a bottle if you can find it. 95 proof, 8 years old. It's exactly what the consumers want, right? CYP, craft your perfect bourbon. It's the collective wisdom of Buffalo Trace fans around the world. Have crafted this, and they're releasing it every year. And, I am proud to say that I still haven't had it. I know people I trust have had it, and they're like, it's fine. But once again, $49.99, maybe it's fine because it's unique. But secondary pricing, forget about it, folks. Spend your time and effort somewhere else. You don't have any opinion on this, right, Bob?
Oh, I do, but I think I've said all I need to say. I mean, I talked to the folks at Cleveland, when because we had covered that several months ago last year on the podcast, how Cleveland was helping them do this one, and I was wondering if they were going to do a new label for it, but they kept it the white label. If they had played another round of Twister to get a different color, and maybe they were going to have a barrage of things, a couple colors, create a purple label if somebody had landed on red and yellow, but that didn't happen. So.
Yeah, that's shame on them for not listening
to you. Red and blue,
to
sorry.
They could have jacked up the price if they'd only listened to you.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
That's right. The last release we have to make an announcement of, and I just got this one as well, is Woodford Reserve. It's releasing a new limited edition brandy cask finished bourbon as part of their distillery series line. It's going to be out in a 375 milliliter bottle for $50. So once again, if you upgrade this to a full-size bottle, it's $100 as well. So the $100 is the new $50. We've seen this coming for a long time. And, I used to give Luxco a lot of trouble for their Blood Oath being $100 years ago. And suddenly that's starting to look like a bargain compared to some of this other crap being $100.
I tell you, I'm still seeing stuff that's $50 that I'm just fine with.
Oh, so. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So if you like these different distillery series releases from Woodford, you want to grab one of these as soon as you can. I kind of like the idea of someone finished in a brandy barrel. I think that'd be fun to give it a taste too. But once again, I'm not going to go out and buy a full bottle just to try a taste. So if anybody wants to volunteer a sample, let us know. We'd be glad to indulge your generosity and give you a big shout out and thank you on the podcast. So that's all I have, Bob. But I didn't think you were going to pull through, but your sources came through just mere hours ago. What do you got?
Well,
for us
this one I was really surprised to see about this one, but we talking to our friend David Jennings, aka Rare Breed 101 on social media, and as he reported on Twitter a few weeks ago, Colonel Albert Blanton was reported to have had a strong affection for pewter horse figurines, stretching back to his childhood. Unfortunately, he didn't really have any additional info on how the colonel developed his attachment to pewter horses, but not to worry, fair listeners. Our crack team of researchers were able to dig up the details, and as a loyal listener of the most honest podcast in all of bourbon, you were the first to know the story behind the man and his love of pewter figures. I got it for you right here. So
you truly are a giver, Bob. I mean, you're making so many people's lives richer and fuller with this information.
I appreciate it. But I'm here for the people. So back in the 1800s, Blanton, was a boy growing up in Frankfurt. There was a local pewter smith that lived near the Blanton family farm, which was right next to the UFC distillery, which is now Buffalo Trace. So little Albert used to play with the pewter smith's children, often with pewter horses that their father had fashioned from scrap metals and scrap materials that had been laying around after he was doing his work. So apparently he spent hours playing with these figurines and then, to put them in pretend horse races and Wild West adventures and things. So And his attachment was so strong to these pewter ponies, so to speak, as he referred to them, that the pewtersmith eventually gifted him a set. He held those pewter ponies near and dear for the rest of his life, and apparently they are the inspiration, unbeknownst to just about everyone, for the famous pewter toppers that now adorn his namesake bottle that's produced at Buffalo Trace. So you always wondered how the pewter horse got it. This is how, but nobody knew it. So now, this coming out now, never want to miss an opportunity. Buffalo Trace is in secret talks with Hasbro to develop a series of children's ponies based on the ones that Colonel Blanton played with as a child. They're going to be sold at the distillery and select toy stores nationwide. Knowing that the pewter figurines would be costly and dangerous to kids today, the toys are going to be fashioned to look like pewter in terms of color and design, but instead they're going to be made from high quality plastics like they make a lot of their other figurines and things. So we did a little additional snooping around, and our sources have discovered that while these pewter ponies appear to be designed for children, Buffalo Trace is actually looking to tap into the growing community of adults that are big fans of the original TV show My Little Pony. This shocked me when I saw this. So
I bet it's shocking me right now.
I know. Well, that's the thing. Is
very uncomfortable right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but so we learned that there's a huge community built around nostalgia for that show. There's an expansive fan fiction community, and My Little Pony characters are woven into original works of fiction and written by diehard fans. And apparently the term brony has been coined for the adult male fans, even yielding a documentary, Bronies, the extremely unexpected adult fans of My Little Pony. I don't know what to say here. But Buffalo Trace apparently found out about this, and so they're going to do these and market these things that are going to be dubbed My Pewter Pony. Is 5 figurine sets that are set to launch this fall. And a few of them are going to have names that are tied into the distillery, of course. So there's Pony Albert, Pony Elmer, and Pony Freddy will be included in the first release. They've got a fully integrated marketing communications plan that's going to support the launch of these products, including a national fan fiction contest offering an all-expense trip to Buffalo Trace and a complete set of pewter ponies from the My Pewter Pony fan fiction collection. For the best fan fiction that comes in for this. So they're going to retail for $9.99, although secondary estimates are already predicting these full sets are going to go for $200 or $300, maybe even more. And this is our sleuth reporting. So naturally, you're not going to find this anywhere but from Bourbon and Banter. You won't see it on the Buffalo Trace website. It's kind of an underground fan fiction type of thing. So we want to encourage you that if you are one of the Bronies or one of the My Little Pony fans, send your fan fiction on this directly to Buffalo Trace. They're not putting calls out for it, but we encourage you to write those fan fiction stories, send them straight to Buffalo Trace. And Harlan's actually going to be doing this. So address it to Harlan. Attention, Harlan Wheatley. Send the fan fiction to Harlan, and there's going to be a lot. I think this is going to really create a lot of buzz. I'm not sure how wide it's going to get because that fan community is so tight knit, and it may just explode in there. And I don't know if it'll get out, but this is really something I never expected. My Pewter Ponies from Buffalo Trace. So who knows if they're going to change the toppers on the Blanton's bottles or not, but if they're going to tie that in or not, maybe you'll get a little pony with your Blantons at some time. Who knows? But this was one of the more interesting things that's come across my desk recently.
Well, I had heard about the whole brony community before, and I don't understand it, but each their own, right? We're not here to judge that. But the fact that Buffalo Trace is thinking so strategically to tie into that, this is the type of shit you don't see anybody else do, right? And I would, as a marketer by trade, I look at this, I'm like, who the fuck's going to buy this? But you know what? Everything they touch sells out, and, they'll just limit the allocation of it. But to your point, I think, Harlan doesn't, like his email getting around. So if you've got fan fiction, print it. This is old school, right? Send it in, mail it in to him, to the distillery. Yes. But if you want to try to get your hands on the sets, I don't know if they're taking pre-orders or not since they've announced it, but you can always drop an email to giftshop@buffalotrace.com and try to get an ETA of when it's going to come to market. and whatnot. I mean, once again, I don't know what the policy is going to be. I don't know if you're going to be in person, but they're used to handling these kind of requests because of their allocated bourbon.
They get them all. And if you happen to be down in Frankfurt, just stop by, ask them. They may have more information. Maybe they're getting more information directly on site than we are. But this is I got to applaud our crack team there. From everything that we've been getting coming through, Buffalo Trace. So it's My Pewter Pony coming soon.
Well, I can't wait to see the stories that people put together. And hey, you know what? If you want us to read something you put together, drop it to podcast@bourbonbanter.com. And if it's good enough, we'll do a little read on the next podcast. That'd be great. Hey, and maybe we'll even share it in the Bourbon and Banter members community. That'd be a lot of fun, right?
And for those of you who are artistic, I think they're going to give special consideration to those that are accompanied with drawings.
Oh, illustrations,
so
yeah.
If there's additional illustrations, yes.
Absolutely.
We're going to have those coming through that, if you can, I don't know what they're looking for. Like I said, I'm not hip to that community, but a lot of things the marketing could take this and just blow it up. They could take something.
Well, let's not do their job for them. We help them out enough, right? Our reviews of the BTAC and everything sell millions of dollars worth of product, so let's not go there. But hey, folks, that's the news, the whiskey news, everything that's fit to read and print. If you have a tip or an idea, send us a note, podcast@bourbonbanter.com, and we will get right on into it and put our crack reporting and research team to work. All right, folks, this is why you tuned in today. It's time for the Craft Shoot. All right, the Craft Shoot, for those of you who are new to this is where Bob and I drink a sample of a craft whiskey blind. That's right, we don't know what it is. Samples were compiled months ago by my lovely wife and then anonymized, and we are giving bottles with a number on it and corresponding envelopes. So we're going to try this whiskey, and then only after we comment, we will open that envelope and we will find out what it is, and we will either make a craft distiller laugh with joy or cry for hours on end. All right, Bob, you're first. What do you got going on in your glass?
I don't know. I'm getting. This might be a crier here. I'm getting plaster or something like that. Some kind of glue, some kind of home, remodeling.
Okay, Bob
shit.
Vila.
Yeah, I'm getting plaster. It's like I've been using that caulk. I forget what it is. The putty that you patch up all the holes in your wall.
Keep drinking. All right. I'm not getting plaster. I'm getting a lot of, this is high proof. I mean, you go too deep on it with your nose, you're gonna back off strongly with this one. I've got some young green oak in there on the nose, which is weird because it's super dark in the glass. I mean, this is,
it's very, very dark.
It's almost like somebody poured like port or something into the glass. It's got that really deep red color to it. But I have to say, it's got that young oak, which says craft distillery to me. It also has a lot of like a fruit on the nose, almost to match the color, kind of those dark fruit flavors that you would get in a finish like a sherry or something fisky.
I'm not getting the fruit at all. I might be getting a little bit of dill.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and taste it. People don't want to wait around forever for us to sniff our glasses. That's interesting.
Yeah, that is.
So
it's a lot better than the nose, yeah.
So I get a little bit of the sawdust from a young whiskey, but it quickly is blown away by a good amount of proof, but not as hot as it smells. Like another sip here. A ton of fruit, ton of those dark fruits on this one for me. Almost to the point it almost tastes almost a little artificial, right? So a lot of cherry, stone fruits, berries.
I'm getting a little prunish.
Prunish, yeah, that'd be good. Hey, it'll keep you regular. Bonus. But then on the finish, I get a lot of that wood again. Comes back around. Maybe a little tobacco, things of that nature. There's something going on. I mean, I don't know if this is a whiskey that they've added something into it, like sherry or port, or if they finished it. But there's something going on with this whiskey. This is, I mean,
it's not
a well-aged whiskky by any stretch.
No, and it doesn't taste like something. It's something's been done to this, yeah.
Right. But I don't find it offensive. So let's find out what this is real quick. I'm really curious. All right. So this comes from our friends at Black Button Distilling. This is a single barrel reserve. They call it straight bourbon finished in, there you go, port casks.
Now, there you go. That's it.
Comes in at 118.8 proof, so right on the nose there. What's on the note there? Let me pull up the website because she didn't give any more information than that. Give me 1 second here.
See, mine has been sitting out for about an hour.
Okay.
Now, after you say that and after I taste it, I go back to the nose and I can tell that there's port there.
Okay, so this is apparently a, and I'm just scanning their website real quick, is maybe an annual limited release. 60% corn, 20% wheat, 11% malted barley, and 9% rye. So it's a 4-grain, technically speaking. And seasonality, year-round limited release. And the whiskey on this, come on, there's got to be some more information. Okay, so the base spirit is only 2 years old. Doesn't taste that young. It had a little bit of those nose notes, but I wouldn't have said it was just 2. I was thinking more like 3 to 4. And then additional 3 years in a quote unquote freshly harvested port cask from ports of New York Winery in Ithaca, New York. So
from Ithaca, New York.
Yeah, Ithaca.
It's my homeland.
Right. So this is interesting. So we were just talking earlier in the show how a lot of things that are cask finished aren't in those casks for very long. So here they've taken a very young whiskey, 2 years old, and put it in a port cask for 3 years, which explains the incredibly unusually dark and rich color, and also the overabundance of the fruit. So typically, I would say too much influence from the barrel is a bad thing, right? Because you hide the whiskey. In this case, they may have saved the whiskey in the sense that a 2-year-old whiskey is usually not something that we would ever want to drink.
That's true.
And while I'm not saying this is, this would be a bar pour for me. If you came across, try it out. I mean, I don't think I would repeatedly buy it, but I think the experiment is interesting enough how they've taken something that I would normally not drink at all and done something that at least makes it kind of interesting and unique.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a bar pour for me too, but it's not offensive as it was when I first smelled it.
It is a little tannic. I think all that time in those barrels makes a little tannic on the end. Now, what I can tell you, I didn't know what this was going into this, but a couple months ago I did a tasting for a group, and I included a pour of this in their tasting because I was curious to kind of explore this concept of we're diehard whiskey drinkers. We've been drinking it for a long time. And we have a certain expectation of what bourbon should taste like, right? And craft really challenges that. And so my thought was like, if you gave this to a bunch of people who aren't whiskey drinkers, in this case, they were younger millennials just getting into whiskey, but really had no preconceived understanding of what whiskey should taste like. I was curious of what they would think. And they absolutely loved it. They thought it was fantastic. They loved the proof of it. They loved the fruit of it, and they really thought it was good. They didn't have any issue with the, young green oak notes or the sawdust notes or the tannins in it. They just like, oh, this is really cool. This is interesting. So now it was done in a blind tasting as well, right? So they didn't know what they're getting into, but that was their comments. And when I explained to them what it was, they didn't skip a beat. They're like, oh, that'd be great. I'd buy a bottle of that. They'd have absolutely no problem with it. I knew you were going to ask that, so let me see here. Caskers, you buy from Caskers right now for $175.
Oh, God.
That's unfortunate. But that's Caskers, so let's not crucify anybody here over this.
Well, yeah, but even at $175 on Caskers, it's going to be $100 or more. It's not, Caskers are going to double the price.
No, I have no idea. And I'm looking at their site. There's no, there's no price tag on this, but I'm sure it's up, close to $100 somewhere, as a result.
Yeah, this is definitely a bar pour.
Yeah. So once again, it's a great, interesting way to handle young whiskey. And I kudos for them. And we've got some reviews of their other products up on their site. I think they're off to some good starts, and they're at least willing to try some new stuff. So once again, if you're going to want to keep exploring craft distilleries, which I think everybody should do. You're going to have to drink a lot of whiskey that's not matching that traditional profile. Some whiskey, which shouldn't be served yet. But you're going to find some interesting things like this. And if they can take this knowledge and learning and keep improving it, just think when they've got this whiskey that's 4, 5 years old, put in some port casks, reduce the number of years in the port cask barrels. They may have something really cool if they're learning from this exercise. So I applaud it and think they should do it. And I'll be glad to sample things like this, whenever. All right. So once again, if you know a craft distillery who is bold enough to take the craft shoot with us, let us know. Send them our way. We'll be glad to pull a sample, add it to our blind rotation, and give them a fair shot on our next podcast. Here we go, folks. The newly certified Guinness World Record holder of the Most Honest Bourbon Podcast segment within the world's most honest bourbon podcast. That's right, Bourbon Bullshit. All right, Bob, you ready? Get your bourbon bullshit sweatsuit on?
Sweats. That's every piece of clothing I own is primed for bourbon bullshit.
All right. I thought you were going to say every piece of clothing is primed for sweating. But anyway.
Well, that's every piece of clothing I own is primed for sweating too. Yeah. I'm not shy about it. We talked about it at the top.
All right. So let's kick things off here with a big bullshit thing that came across the transom the other day. The fact that Cleveland whiskey won double gold, and silver at the 2021 San Francisco World Spirits Competitions. Now, we have railed on this a lot previously that we don't need any more fucking spirits competitions. So, Fred's came out with the Ascot Awards this year. That he broke that, really didn't listen to us. We're going to have to take him out back behind the woodshed to deal with that. But the San Francisco World Spirits Competition has been around for a while. And here we are, Cleveland winning double gold, and silver. What the fuck?
When you walk down the whiskey aisle, you'll see the little shelf talkers and shit like that. And I look at this stuff and I look at and they've got it plastered all over there. Everybody can buy a fucking medal at this shit. It is not, to me, seeing that doesn't do anything except piss me off. I'm like, well, what kind of bullshit did they have to pay to get this thing? It's like, and then you see that you're telling me that Cleveland whiskey gets double gold. And, a Wild Turkey rare breed, Russell's Reserve single barrel, 4 Roses, small batch select. You're going to tell me those are going to get the same double gold rating? And so Cleveland whiskey, a bottle of Cleveland whiskey is going to be equivalent to a bottle of that? Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, see, you raise an interesting point. I hadn't even thought about that, but you're absolutely right. Is how do the long-standing brands feel, right? So how does Buffalo Trace feel when that, single barrel of Eagle Rare gets the same medals as a brand like a Cleveland, if that's the case, right? How does that make them feel? But we've talked about this before. The competitions are good for two audiences, right? Craft distillers that need a award medal to help sell the brand. And truly, I feel for these guys, right? There's a lot of craft brands out there. Some of them are good, some of them are not. And you need every edge you can. So these award things, when you win a medal, it's something that to dangle on your package and interpret that any way you want, dangling things in your package. But it gets people's attention when you do that, especially in the whiskey aisle. But the other people are the brands who launch these competitions. They're making serious bank off of this. They charge hundreds of dollars to enter for a single category. You have to send in the product, enough for the tasters to go through. And then if you do win, which, surprise, you won, right? You can get a trophy or a plaque, but you have to pay big money for that. All right. And then sure, you get some promotion out of it, and that helps your brand. So it's like a sure thing, right? Spend money, win a medal. If one of these competitions wanted to get at least my personal opinion of their show to maybe make a small step toward legitimacy, I want to see a list publicly put out there of who didn't win. So if 1,000 spirit companies entered with 1,000 products, okay, who did not walk away with a trophy? And I want them named because I think that's just important. If they paid and were willing to do it, just like the craft shoot, right? Somebody sends us a sample, they go in the craft shoot, win or lose, we talk about it. And that's the way it should be. If they were in it to help the consumer. And if they're not in it to help the consumer, fuck them.
But that's the thing about another aspect of this to me is that the consumer that these metals are really helping is the person looking at that shelf talker trying to figure out what to buy. And usually that's somebody who doesn't drink whiskey a lot or is new to the game and is not quite sure what to do. So they see this and they say, hey, because it got this huge award from San Francisco, and then they taste it and it's shit, and it could ruin them on the whole category.
No, absolutely. I mean, we've said it before. We'll keep saying it. Tell me who didn't win, and come up with an award show where it's not a foregone conclusion that you're going to walk away with a medal. And once again, it's not my business model. I'm sure if this was my business, I was making, $500,000 a year off of a competition, I'd defend it to the end of the earth, but I'm not seeing any value in it. And, I've already seen brands that I have a lot of respect for touting out they've won some of the Ascot Award stuff. And, when you look at their website, they give out double platinum, platinum, and gold. It doesn't even look like there's a silver. So they've just moved the scoring a little bit, right? So it sounds more impressive. Instead of double gold, it's double platinum. Is that better? I mean, do I turn this one up to 11 and it's better?
The only double platinum that I recognize is Kiss, double platinum. Came out in the late 1970s. Rock and roll all night, party every day.
See, there you go. Now we're talking. Let's get Gene Simmons and let him rate these fucking bourbons.
We're probably going to have to pay Gene Simmons for just saying that sentence. So we better stop it now.
Well, hey, we stood up to the whole entire country of South Africa.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But
and we talk about, Pops was making a great point about these craft distillers that need this help. And yeah, we do go after a lot of them on the craft shoot, but they submit and they're open to it, and we tell it like it is.
Absolutely.
But there are some great craft distillers that are out there doing that stuff. And I'm not sure what the status is of a Chattanooga, if they got a double gold, or if Wyoming whiskey, I've got a great private barrel, single barrel in the other room that they did, that there are folks doing wonderful things. I don't give a fuck if they've got a double gold from the San Francisco Spirits Competition. Was it last year before, they had like 2,300 entrants and 2,000 got medals?
Yeah.
Some shit like that. Come on.
Come on. Just tell me who didn't get one. That's what I want to know. I'll be more interested than trying that whiskey to find out what the hell they did wrong, that they couldn't pick up a gimme. Right. So anyway, opinions run all over the place from this, but I'll tell you what, I have yet to meet a person who, when they let down their professional guard or whatever allegiance they have, who doesn't say the competitions are bullshit. It's a necessary evil, right? Once again, if you're a startup brand, if I were to launch a distillery tomorrow, I'd probably apply too, because I got to give my consumers something to cling to. But I think there is a opportunity out there for something with a little bit more legitimacy. But having said that, because obviously I can get a lot of people reaching out saying, well, then do it. Here's the reality. It takes a lot of effort, logistics. It takes a lot of money, which is why they have to charge for this, right? Just to organize something like this, right? You get a lot of people involved in this, whether they're volunteer, whether you have to pay them something, you still have to get all the samples distributed. You got to pay somebody to coordinate all of that. So it's not a small undertaking. So by no means do I expect anybody to do a competition 100% for free, but just like scales of rating 1 to 10, when you never give someone below a 7, there's something wrong. And there's something to be fixed.
And that's why Bourbon and Banter says bottle, bar, or bust. That exactly what's going on. You don't have to wonder gold or double platinum or what's the most rare kind of metal. This one's ruby, the Ruby Slipper Award.
It's like a fucking airlines loyalty program. Super Diamond Starfire.
Exactly. But you can guess through all that shit. And one gold doesn't mean the same as another gold means, but bottle, bar, or bust, you know what that means.
That's right. All right. Well, let's that was pretty deep. Great way to start bourbon bullshit. But let's boogie on down to a little brand that's come on our radar called Uncle Boojie's. I don't even know
what the name alone. What the fuck?
Uncle Boojie's. If a name just screams like tear my story apart, but they have quite a story, right? I mean, what, 200-year-old recipe?
Just discovered.
Yeah.
200-year-old recipe. And that 200-year-old recipe yielded a 13-year-old bourbon.
Hey, and you know what? I can tell you right now that those Diageo fuckers had gotten on this recipe would have been found 198 years ago.
That's true. That's true.
Orphan barrel hunters, hire them. That's the show.
That's the show. That's the show right there. Orphan barrel hunters.
That's right.
Coming soon on the Discovery Network.
All right. Yeah. So a 13-year-old bourbon, is that what it is?
Yeah, 13-year-old bourbon using the family's 200-year-old secret mash recipe. Well, if it's a secret, how the fuck did they use it?
Well, you know what? I mean, maybe it was so bad no one was meant to find it. You ever think about that? Like maybe we shouldn't bring, bacteria from asteroids to Earth. I don't know. Just asking.
Distilled at Buzzard's Roost in the mountains of Old Kentucky, spelled with an E on the end.
Yeah,
my ass.
Yeah, that was more offensive than just about anything. But once again, taking a page out of the branding marketing playbook of how do you make your whiskey unique? Don't worry about the whiskey itself. That's no one's going to know. Instead, let's put it into crocks or jugs or some shit like that.
Yeah, like like the you do baked beans at the Cracker Barrel in it, then you put whiskey in it. I guess.
See, now I'm just gonna hear that steak and shake commercial. Bean crock. Fucking hear that for the rest of the night. Thank you for that. Well,
I haven't heard that in a long time.
Yeah, well, now that's gonna be in your head. You're welcome. So, but you'll be glad to know that they're not selling the whiskey for $100 a bottle, right? So you can buy.
Well, that's good, Pops.
You can buy a Family Reserve crate, which is all three of their releases, 3 single barrels. For $497.
Fuck me. $500?
Yes, and that'll get you.
And do the Crocs come with a little pewter pig on the top of it?
No, but they come with a carrying box with Uncle Boojie stenciled on it.
Oh, well, fuck.
So it comes with their single barrel number 1, which is on 123 proof. Then they have single barrel 2, which is 100 proof, and then small batch. So it's not even 3 single barrels, which is 100 proof. All for $497 in a nice wood tote that, you could buy anywhere just about. That is some shit, ain't it?
I don't even know what to say. A 200-year-old secret recipe yielding a 13-year-old bourbon.
Well, I tried to dig into these guys, and I'm not even going to go into it, but it's a couple brothers, I think. They have a small farm. Maybe they're making it I think they're making whiskey there, but I don't think this is their whiskey. It's hard to tell. Once again, if I can't figure it out from reading your website, then shame on you. But I'm going to leave it to the listeners. Go to Uncle Boogies. That's BOOJIES, UncleBoogies.com. Check it out for yourself and let us know. And God forbid somebody here has had it. I hope you didn't buy that crate for $497. But if you've had it, let me know what you think. And if you know the owners, have them send us some whiskey. I mean, hey, it's 13-year-old whiskey. So if it came from somewhere other than Dickel, I might be impressed. Hey, you got 13-year-old MGP juice. I'll drink it, but I'm not going to give you $500 for 3 bottles. Absolutely not.
No. And and 2 of the 3 bottles are at 100 proof, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's
hard pass. Oh,
in a stoneware jug.
Woo! Yes, that's because it's good.
You can play a tune on it when you're done.
Oh, that's great. And do other things with it too, but that's not this kind of show. All right, moving on. So 4 Roses. We are big fans of 4 Roses. In fact, we just did 2 private selection picks earlier this year, and they were just released to our single barrel club. So too bad if you missed out on that. These are delicious selections, if we do say so ourselves. But as many of you know, that in the private barrel pick world, there is the practice of putting stickers, secondary labels onto bottles to commemorate a private barrel pick. We do it at Bourbon and Banter, and we do it because when you're on these picks, oftentimes something fun happens, something memorable, or you're doing it for a special occasion. So we like to create labels that commemorate that. Now, there are some people that do labels and wax and other weird things for the bottles with the intent of being able to inflate the price. So some groups will buy barrels and they will mark them up. And it's not just barrel groups that do this, right? There are retail stores. I know retail stores right now that have their single barrel pick from 4 Roses and they're selling it for hundreds of dollars. Okay. That's ridiculous, right? Every state's going to mark the bottles up a little bit different. I believe retail through our partner is about $80 retail. Our people in our bourbon club get it cheaper than that. But to charge a couple $100 is ridiculous. And then to say, well, we got wax on it and we got the double platinum foil label, it's bullshit. Now, unfortunately, what has happened is Four Roses is starting to take notice of this practice, and clearly they're not happy about it because they have recently sent out letters. We did not get one. Our retail partner did not get one, to several groups saying, hey, you have to sign this document, which through legal language, basically saying, don't put a fucking sticker on the bottle. All right. Then you sign this, you agree to that, and don't do it. Now, there doesn't appear to be any legal recourse if you do, because once again, at the end of the day, if you buy and own the product, technically you do whatever you want. But a lot of these groups are putting the sticker on and then putting it on a shelf or then selling it, right? Once again, making it part of the value transaction. And what they're going to do, sort of the interpreted read between the lines, is that if you do that and violate what they've asked you not to do, is you're probably not going to get another chance to do a barrel pick next time around. And that's a pretty big loss. If you love Four Roses and you're relying on having that to attract people to your club or just to have something on your shelf that you really enjoy, you don't want to lose that ability to do that. So that's a pretty powerful statement. The discussion around this so far has been mixed. Some people think they're perfectly within their rights. Other people are like, they should fuck off because I've bought the bottle and you can't tell me what to do. I mean, it's akin to putting a bumper sticker on my Honda, right? And, if I put a bumper sticker saying, I support XYZ that's as contrary to Honda's corporate values, they can't keep me from buying another car. So lots of opinions on this, but I'm going to turn it over to you, Bob. That's kind of the lay of the land. And before I talk to people how we're going to deal with it, I'm kind of curious what your take is on this whole, debate around stickers.
Well, I think that, like what you were saying earlier, people putting these stickers on them, then doing an upcharge on them that's not for a charity or raising money for some kind of 501c3. I think that's who they're looking at for these, and people just doing stupid shit, and people do stupid shit all the time, unfortunately. So I don't think that this is something that, the folks that are commemorating a pick with a group of friends that went down there and picked this barrel, like what we've done.
Mm-hmm.
We had a sticker on the barrel that we did last year that was very personal for us and was very personal for one of Four Roses' longtime employees who that pick honored. And that was great. And that wasn't, we did not do that to draw attention to ourselves. We didn't do it to raise the price on anything. We did that because we wanted to pay tribute to this gentleman that we've worked with there for a long time and that everybody in the industry loves. You said people, they can't stop what people are going to do afterwards.
Right.
And, people could still get the stickers, could just wait till afterwards and put them on them. Really, what can you do? But just, it's the don't be a dick rule. Don't be a dick. Don't do this shit and looking to try to get, your $80 bottle on the secondary for $400 because you put a sticker and a stupid fucking wax top on the thing.
Well, I have absolutely no issue with, them getting defensive around people trying to inflate the value of a bottle. Right. And it's always been interesting. I mean, Buffalo Trace has that reputation now for, going out and spending money to close down Facebook secondary groups and blame its counterfeiters that are spoiling it. Yet they won't do anything about the retailers who charge outrageous prices, or they won't do anything about the distributors who require retailers to purchase a bunch of vodka and Fireball to get access to bottles, right? So already annoying. Four Roses is, they had recently changed how their program works a little bit, and we navigated that well. We've got good relationships with these guys. So this was a little bit of a surprise because it's not more specific, and I'm sure there are legal nuances, right? So you have to worry about TTB issues, right? So once again, labels have to be approved. So if a secondary sticker goes on a bottle and it goes on a shelf at a liquor store, no one may understand that, right? So if it's saying something that's not according to labeling rules, if it's saying something offensive, the brand potentially suffers it and could have some liability for it. So I totally get that. But I'm with you in the fact that once I've purchased it as a consumer, I should be able to do what I want. So what we've done is, we've reached out because we did not get a letter. And, being a good partner and with the respect we have for Four Roses, we've reached out and said, here's the 2 stickers we've created. Is this an issue? Let us know, because our bottles will be shipping out soon. Our labels actually show up tomorrow. And so what we are likely going to do is we're not going to affix them to the bottle. We are going to pack them in the boxes when they go out so the consumer can make that choice, which I think is the right thing, right? Because the consumer could print their own sticker right at home. I think where it gets interesting is if someone decides to put the sticker on. I'm going to put the stickers on mine because, once again, they're commemorative. They're special to me in that sense. And then someone posts a photo to Instagram or Twitter, right? And along with the little, 4 rows of the fixed sticker that says this is a Bourbon and Banter pick, is that going to count against us? Or if Bourbon's Pursuit does it, or, any other number of groups, if somebody does that account against us? Because that's out of our control. So once again, they haven't really clearly identified this, and it is a new development. So we'll see how it plays out. But I really hope that other groups, I know Bourbon Pursuit is adhering. They got a letter, they signed it. They talked about it last night on their roundtable, and we would do the same. We would sign it without a problem. But I'm really kind of curious to see where this goes and where they draw the line. Because once again, are they going to say don't produce one at all? I have a little bit of an issue with that personally. When a brand says you can't do anything to my product once you've purchased it, I think that's kind of crossed an interesting line. And to hold a barrel pick hostage because of that, that's even more problematic. So we'll see how it plays out. I mean, once again, we are partners with Four Roses, always have been, and want to do the right thing. But I hope they kind of look at it and say, just don't sell it with the sticker on it. I can totally get aboard with that. Any other brand wants to put that out there, I'm cool with that too. But we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see if other brands step on this as well. But I am curious to hear what our listeners have to say. So definitely come in and let us know what you think of this. Drop us a note, podcast@bourbonbanter.com. And then, let us know. Join our community as well, and we can have the discussion in there as well and get a lot more people chimed in and see where it goes. But definitely a development worth watching. And for those of you who are getting our bottles, if you're listening, you'll get the stickers packed in the box, and you can choose whether or not you want to put them on the bottle or not. So that's an interesting development to be sure. Now, Bob, I don't understand why you know what it's like to shop at Claire's, but you had an interesting bullshit topic.
Well, no, I've walked past the damn thing.
Walk past
in the mall. I've walked past it. Okay. I'm not going in it, but the shit screams at you from outside if you're in a fucking mall. So the liquor section, like if you're in a state where your grocery stores are allowed to sell the full range of liquor, like we're in Missouri, that you can sell anything in Missouri at a liquor. I know some places you got to go to a liquor store to buy whiskey, but you can buy beer and wine in a grocery store. Here you can buy everything. But fuck, I walk through the grocery store, and every time I get to the liquor section, it looks like it's fucking Claire's on steroids because of all the seltzers and the hard lemonades and the Bud Lights, the Coors Light shit, the Natural Light fucking pink lemonade, whatever the hell, the White Claw. I truly don't give a shit, and I'm wondering who the fuck is drinking all this shit. All of this crap that just it literally burns my eye sockets as I walk through there trying to grab a bottle of, Old Granddad or Turkey or Four Roses or whatever. And I got to weed through like neon pink and blue and green and orange shit. It looks like a fucking Trix box threw up every week. Just fucking stop it. Seriously, who's drinking this shit? I know our people out there, write us and let us know what is the appeal of. There's so much of this crap. It's everywhere, and it's in like it's not even in like here's a bottle here, here's a case there. It's fucking pallets of this shit.
Oh yeah,
everywhere.
Oh yeah. I mean, come on, we go down the Randalls regularly, right? And they got pallets of shit sitting around, and God bless them, they're going to sell what makes money. I don't have a problem with them selling it. But the people putting the packaging together, it's all about screaming for competition, right? Thank goodness most whiskey manufacturers haven't gone to neon colors on their bottles. I guess that could be coming next, right?
Oh, please don't give anybody any ideas, Pop.
Oh, believe me, there's people way ahead of me on this. That's it. I'm going to launch a whiskey. Actually, I'm not going to name names, but there's some whiskeys that are coming on the market with these high-end looks and feels. I'm waiting for the first one to put an LED in the bottle. Because listen, LEDs on a battery last forever. So create a cap that's got a little LED in it, and it shines in the bottle. I mean, talk about making your bottle stand out on a shelf. Holy crap.
I'm laughing because I know where you're going. Pops and I have a friend who had an idea on this for a limited release that was an excellent release a few years ago, and it never came to fruition. And that with that bottle, it would have been cool. But no, we don't need a fucking LED light in the goddamn bottle.
Well, you don't need one. I don't need one. But, for all these people who can't make a decision, it's like drawing the moth to the flame. Come drink my subpar $200 whiskey.
No, I don't want to see no Evan Williams Beach bourbon bottles. I don't need to see any of that shit. Please, Heaven Hill, don't be doing that shit.
It'll be like those inflatable footballs from my child. You get this in football, you inflate it, and you stick a pen light in it so you could throw it in at night, right?
Well, now they got you've seen they've had the fucking the Captain Morgan basketballs and baseballs and horse shit, the Coco Loco, fuck you, oh, whatever the hell. But Christ, can I just go and get some fucking liquor without having to look like I'm walking through an 18-year, a 14-year-old's fucking bedroom with neon pink and blue and shit everywhere?
No, the answer is no. All right, folks.
Fucking killing me. Fucking killing me.
There you have it, folks. Another chock full episode of Bourbon and Bullshit. Once again, now you know why Guinness Books of World Records certified us as the most honest podcast segment inside the most honest podcast in all of bourbon. So if you've got a bourbon bullshit idea or something just gnawing at you, drop us a line, podcast at bourbonbanter.com, and we will look at it and consider adding it into rotation for the podcast. Hey, and if it doesn't make the podcast, it will go into the community where we will debate it, talk about it, and see what others think. Because once again, that's what it's all about. Have a drink, pull up a chair, let's have a conversation, just about anything bourbon and whiskey related. All right, folks, congratulations. You've made it to the end of episode 15. Bob and I want to thank you so much for tuning in again. We really appreciate your listening and all of the emails that we get for people saying how much they enjoy the podcast. And if you're one of those people that enjoy the podcast, or hell, just want to have other people sit through this hour of pain, please head over to podcast.bourbonbanter.com. Click on the Apple Podcast. And when you get there, please leave us a review. Give us 5 stars and drop in some words of wisdom. Make it funny, make it entertaining. All that shit shows up on the Apple website. And then also subscribe, because when you subscribe, that raises us up, makes other people see that we're out there. And the more people that listen to this podcast, the better chance we have of upgrading and adding some real talent to the lineup. So once again, people, the power is in your hands. And Bob's looking like he's offended, but I know better, because Bob knows that I'll buy him donuts before I hire talent.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, see?
Fucking
Once
Boston
again,
cream donut rules, yeah.
That's right. So thank you so much. And like I said, any feedback, anything like that, drop the note to podcast@bourbonbanter.com. And Bob and I will take it seriously, at least for a minute or two. And we'll invite you to the podcast if you're entertaining enough and you make us laugh. So make sure to leave that review, subscribe, do all those fun things, and let other people know how much you enjoy this podcast. We do appreciate it. So on behalf of everyone at Bourbon and Banter, thanks again for listening. And remember, if you're going to drink
curious.
Well, what's your preference?
Bourbon, if you got it.
Bourbon from Kentucky.
I should certainly fucking hope so.